We're working through all the free video tutorials on the BERNETTE B62, B64, and B68 series of sergers and combination cover stitch machines. And now this little beauty, the B62 Airlock, is the cover stitch only machine within this series. So all it has is cover stitch needles, cover stitch looper, but it's air threaded, which is what everybody wants. So it's super easy to set up, change around, and I'm going to show you just my simple tips that I always give my students for using this machine successfully. Hi, I'm Sarah from sewingmastery.com, and you can find all the links to the videos in this series in the description below, along with links to the manual you can print off, the workbook you can print off, and the one sheet I'd say print off immediately, which is just the simple stitch overview chart. I like to keep this close by because as you're working through the different stitches of this machine, you can quickly see, oh yes, tensions need to be adjusted to this, what are the settings, and what should the stitch look like when it's done. I also recommend that you visit your local Bernina store, look at the big book of serger quilting, which by the way can be done on this machine, because we have a stitch that's similar to a sewing machine stitch, but that can do so much more when you incorporate decorative threads and cover stitching. Then there's also the big book of serging, which also has an amazing grouping of cover stitch information throughout this book. There's also a few CRAFTSY classes that I recommend, and I'll put links to my favorites in the description below. Check those out for additional projects and techniques that you can do on the BERNETTE B62. You can also use these videos to see if this machine would be a right fit for you and what you plan to use it for. We like to encourage our students to color code their stitches the first time that they're learning. That way, if you notice that the yellow thread is doing something a little odd, you know which thread to check and see if maybe something wasn't threaded correctly or out of place. The machine comes set up with a 3-needle cover stitch. So let's start here and see what it takes to thread this popular stitch. At this point, you can also set up the serger as a free arm. If you're going around hems or sleeves, that's going to open up a world of opportunity. You can also place the slide-on table in and around the edge of the machine, and then substitute out the extra cover stitch table that comes with this machine that will extend the work surface and come all the way out even with the front of the table. For right now, I'm going to slide this table off and leave it to the side. I do love that it doesn't matter what order you thread the serger in. You can start with the cover stitch looper or thread the needles first. You pick. Make sure your presser foot is up when you thread the machine, and that way the tensions are open just like it is on your sewing machine, making it easier for when you slide the thread down that it goes deep enough into the tension disc that when you lower the presser foot, they close on the thread as it's supposed to be done. You'll also find all the handy tools that you'll use for threading your machine, like the tweezers and the needle threader right at your fingertips. Let's start with the far left needle. Connect underneath the guide at the back of the tension. Slide it down, and if you can, do a little flossing motion as you bring the thread down through the tension area. Bring the thread under, over the top, and down one of the grooves and all the way behind the guide at the top of the needles. We have a video that we'll link to right up here for how to master your needle threader. And repeat for the center needle and the right needle. In preparation to thread the cover stitch looper, slide the airlock lever to the far left side and then turn the hand wheel until you hear a click. Once the tube has closed and you put your thread down this purple hole and press the button, it will shoot it through and you'll be ready to stitch. Peek underneath, there is one guide underneath this housing that you're going to hook the thread around. Then pull out enough thread so there's adequate length for the thread to make the complete distance once you push the button. And there it is. I like to take my scissors, clip about a 2 to 3 inch tail, let it hang, and close the door. Now here's a little note. When you close the door and it doesn't want to close, just remember you have to move the lever back to the right, open up the air tubes, and then the door will close. I love that safety feature because so many times I leave it where it shouldn't be, and that's my reminder that I have one more step to do. For the 4-thread cover stitch, make sure all the tensions are set at 4. Your stitch length has been lengthened to 3, and the differential feed is set at 1. Since this is the first time stitching, let's just start by taking a piece of fabric, folding it in half, and slide it underneath the presser foot. So when you start, your needles will start in the fabric. Lower down the presser foot and start to stitch. You'll notice that the very first time you thread your cover stitch machine, these needle threads will still be on the top of the foot. You can let them kind of pull their way through, or you can clip them so their distance is a little shorter, and then go ahead and sew to the end of the fabric. At this point, there's a little trick for ending the cover stitch seam. Bring your needles all the way to their highest position by turning the hand wheel towards you and lift up the presser foot. Take the little tool that came with the machine, it's in the accessory box, and we're going to swipe the needle threads out from underneath the presser foot between the foot and the top of the fabric. If you clip them and then pull the threads out the back, they will pull to the back and tie themselves off. Clip the cover stitch thread and take a look at the stitch you've created. This machine is so easy to use, easy to thread, and will always be set up ready for your next cover stitch project. At this point, the combination of needles, whether you're using one needle and creating a chain stitch, 2 needles and making a narrow cover stitch, or 2 needles in their widest positions and making a wide cover stitch, those are pretty much all the combinations that you need. If you want to do a 2-thread chain stitch, you can actually do it with the needle in the left position, the center position, or the right position. A chain stitch is practically like a sewing machine stitch, with the option of being able to undo the cover stitch thread and pull it out without having to rip any stitches. A lot of our long arm users love to use the chain stitch on this machine to sew on their zippered leaders to their quilts, so they can chain stitch them on, and then when they're done they can undo the thread and unstitch them just as fast. Or faster. If you want to use decorative thread for a fancier cover stitch, substitute your decorative thread into the purple location. Adjust the tension to a lower number to allow the thicker thread to go through, and if it is a thicker thread, tie it on and pull it through. The air threaded system, it won't be able to accommodate a chunky decorative thread, so by tying on and pulling through, that's the easiest way to add a decorative thread to your stitching options. We'll put a link right up here to where we talk about how to tie threads on the proper way and what not you should use. Let's say we want to use a wide cover stitch. So I'm going to leave in the left needle and the right needle, but remove the center needle. Open the door and reach for the needle threader and the screwdriver. Let's remove the green thread and the center needle. Lower the presser foot for a little bit more room for the needle threader to slide up the center needle to catch it once you start to loosen the screw. Give it a little loosen, give it a little wiggle, it'll drop out, and then tighten the screw so it doesn't loosen up while you stitch. Another thing you can do once you've swiped your threads is use the thread cutter on the side of the machine to cut that loop off and pull it out the back. Use the cutter again and your threads are again pulled to the back for perfectly locked finished stitching. Again, I highly encourage you to download the Coverstitch workbook. That link is in the description below. And do each of the stitches that this machine will do, and you'll have this machine mastered in no time flat. If this video has been helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's your way of saying thank you for the information. Happy cover stitching!